So here we are in the Upstart Nursery, the River Road neighbourhood nursery, and we have just finished putting up our shade cloth this morning, very timely given that we have temperatures forecast I think of between 100 and 95 degrees today, very hot. What we found through the years is that it's much easier to keep trees in pots under shade cloth than it is out in the open sun. They're not only much easier to care for, but the trees do much better. A tree that we graft in the spring can put on 2, 3, 4 times the amount of growth if we keep it under shade cloth than if we keep it under full sun. I think that has a lot to do with the moisture content and the temperature in the pots and the way that we can sort of modulate the fluctuations that way. And so we try to move everything where we can under this shade cloth. For the most part, typically what we're looking to do is get trees or plants into the ground as easily as we can. We've got everything from apples to pears to plums to cherries. A lot of currants are here, a lot of grapes are here, and then a sort of a diversity of selection of permaculture plants. For the most part, it makes sense to get them in the ground. They're much happier there, and they're much easier to keep in the ground until it's time for, say, you're ready to want to move them and transplant them elsewhere. With a few exceptions. Figs hate to be dug and transplanted, so we're always going to grow them on in a pot before it's time to move them out and plant them in their final location. This nursery, in some senses, looks much like any other nursery, but I think I was just told this morning that it looks a little bit like a professional nursery setup. But one of the things that makes our neighbourhood nursery a little different, and you'll hear me speak to this mantra quite often, is the fact that what we're trying to do as part of Embody the New Intelligence is essentially create a world that money can't buy. And what I mean by that is that when we start stewarding and propagating plants according to a set of values that are not dictated by the exigencies and requirements of the inexorable, accelerating road to extinction that basically hypercapitalism is forcing upon us all, when we're actually able to tend to an ecological, sustainable, healthful approach, what it affords us is the freedom to do the sorts of things that the for-profit community can't actually get to. So, for example, a dizzying array of the material in this nursery is material that we've sourced from what actually happens to be the largest collection of certainly apple trees in the world, and certainly the most diverse collection of pear trees in the world, both within about an hour's reach of Eugene. And over the years, as we've gone into these collections and studied them, what we've essentially been able to do is to see the characters in these vast collections who've basically gone, hello, and we've gone and we've grabbed them and brought them in here and propagated them. Most, if not many, of these varieties you'll not find in any commercial catalogue, but what they represent is vast depth and breadth of authentic ecological power, in a sense, and that ultimately represents the deep social, ecological, or as we would say, eco-social power of a very modest and small nursery effort such as this, which essentially has allowed us to gather the most ecologically resilient germplasm on the face of the planet, as we know it performs exceptionally well in our bioregion, bring it into our community and begin to share it.